we'll go ahead and get started now. Thanks for joining us on this windy evening. We appreciate it. I'm Chris Cargill, the Eastern Washington Director for Washington Policy Center. We want to welcome you here to our first event for our Washington Policy Center Young Professionals Club here at Washington State University. It's a great privilege to be here at the Foley Institute, and we want to thank the Foley Institute for welcoming us here this evening. Washington Policy Center, I know many of you may not be aware of what Washington Policy Center is or what we do, so let me take a brief couple of minutes here to express what the organization is all about. So how many of you are aware of the Heritage Foundation or the Brookings Institute or the American Enterprise Institute? So those are think tanks on a national level. Washington Policy Center is a think tank on a statewide level. So we're a research group or an organization that studies public policy or gives you research or recommendations on public policy relating to things like healthcare or education or the environment or transportation. We actually have 6 research centers: a Center for Education, Environment, Government Reform, Healthcare, Small Business, and Transportation. We have research centers located across the state of Washington, offices up in Spokane, Tri-Cities, Seattle, and Olympia, a statewide staff of 17, and an annual budget of about $2.5 million. We've been in Washington State and been in existence for more than 2 decades now. One of our biggest sources of pride recently has been the establishment of our Young Professionals program, first over in Western Washington, and then we recently expanded it here in Eastern Washington as well. Specifically, our Young Professionals clubs on college campuses, and we have 3 Young Professionals clubs now with the addition of our Young Professionals Club here at WSU. We also have Young Professionals Clubs at the University of Washington and Seattle University. So we are really excited about the great growth of our Young Professionals Clubs. One of the big events that our Young Professionals Clubs do are our debate series. Last year we did a minimum wage debate over at Murrow, and we did a minimum wage debate up at Gonzaga University as well, and over at UW. This February we'll be also doing a debate series here at WSU and at Seattle University as well. So we'll keep you updated, and we're glad you signed up on the sign-up sheet tonight. You'll be invited to come to that debate series this coming later winter when we get that all set, and we'll get you an invitation to that program as well. I want to introduce our 4 club officers for the WSU Club: Sophia Steele, Stephanie George, Maria Ekman, and Matthew Carlson, to take you through the program this evening. You'll be hearing from several speakers. We had to have, actually because of the weather, a cancellation of one of our speakers, and you'll hear more about that in just a couple of minutes. But to take you through the rest of the program, Sophia and Stephanie.
So the Washington Policy Center Young Professional Group engages and educates future leaders about sound policy while advancing free market solutions through relationship building, events, and outreach. There are currently young professional groups at the University of Washington, Seattle University, and here at Washington State University. We formed this club to engage, empower, and provide opportunities for WSU students seeking to become leaders in our state. Last spring, we held a dynamic and well-attended debate here on campus surrounding the timely topic of the minimum wage increase in Seattle. We will be holding another debate in February 2016, and we'll have other opportunities coming up next spring for WSU students to network with our state leaders, WPC research directors, and learn more about the work that WPC does. If you are interested in staying involved with WPC YP at WSU, please be sure to write your name and email down on that sheet. And if you're here to receive extra credit, there will be a sheet on that table at the end. And please like our Facebook page. It's WPC Young Professionals at WSU.
So at this time, we're just going to show a brief video to you guys. It's about a 2-minute video to give you an idea of some of the events that the young professionals are able to engage in throughout the year. So Matthew, if you could go ahead and play the video, that'd be awesome.
Center's Young Professional Group was formed in 2010 with the goal of engaging, educating, and empowering the next generation of free market leaders in Washington State.
The quality of the ideas and the individuals were something that Seattle really needed. I wanted to be part of to help educate society about what needed to happen, and so more accurate information. And so what it meant to me, really, and what the Policy Center was, is a form of education.
WPC Young Professionals is led by an active 20-member advisory board made up of young business and community leaders.
They want to be aware of what's going on with current events in society, and I think the people is really what keeps me kind of coming back. I think it's important to get involved at a young age because eventually we aren't going to be young anymore. And the problems will be our problems. And if we know how they started, we can solve them better.
Once I kind of saw what they were all about, I really wanted to be a part of it.
I was really interested in being able to be a part of something that stands for free market principles and that educates people about what those principles are.
WPC Young Professionals at UW was the first college club formed and was formed in March of 2014 and was the host of WPC Young Professionals' inaugural statewide debate series.
Important for young people to get involved in policy early so that they can affect the changes they want to see in the world and in their state throughout their lifetime.
WPC Young Professionals now has a formal presence on 3 universities: the University of Washington, Washington State University, and Seattle University.
This year we will be starting Washington Policy Center Young Professionals group at Washington State University. And we're really excited about this, to be able to bring educational opportunities to students at Washington State University.
WPC's Young Professionals at Seattle University launched in the fall of 2015, becoming WPC's 3rd college club. These clubs are student-run on campus and serve as resources for college students to gain access to WPC's work, to network with other students, and to develop as the leaders of tomorrow.
Educating,
Engaging,
Empowering
The next generation.
of free market leaders.
The Washington Policy Center.
Can you go ahead and pause it right there and just leave it? Thank you. So as you guys can see, this video was shot last summer at one of our our Young Professionals social events. So that was pretty fun and something to look forward to if you want to become involved in the Washington Policy Center Young Professionals. So we also have some flyers on our Young Professionals groups if you want some more information, and that'll be on the side table. You can grab those after the program. So now we're going to go ahead and get into our program. Our event tonight is titled Building Future Leaders in Politics. In many regards, Washington State is viewed as a political leader. We are a very diverse state in regard to population, industry, culture, and opinion. We are on the forefront of innovation and production in many industries, as well as a bellwether state for many initiatives. The responsibility to continue to ensure the success and leadership of our state falls largely on political leaders and their ability to promote innovation, job growth, and collaboration within our state. This responsibility also falls on we, the people, to participate in our political system by voting and becoming involved in politics. According to the Washington Secretary of State's voter participation statistics, in 2014, only 39.51% of the voting age population in Washington State voted in the midterm elections. This percentage has been steadily declining over the past several decades. Nationwide, the voter turnout in 2014 was the lowest it's been since World War II, according to the Washington Post. The millennial generation voter turnout hovered just around 20% for the 2014 midterm elections. These statistics are alarming, considering that our nation's political system depends on participation by the people. Millennials, the generation largely comprised of college students, us, make up a large portion of the voting age population. As older generations continue to retire, the millennial generation will continue to bear a greater responsibility to fill their shoes, become political leaders, uphold the democratic ideals that our country was founded on, and carry on the legacy of those who have come before us. We have a highly qualified individuals with us tonight to discuss the importance of young people's participation in politics and the importance of building future leaders in politics. So as Chris mentioned earlier, Representative Zeiger, who is the representative for the 25th District here in Washington State, could not be with us because his flight was canceled due to the weather. And we are also waiting on Senator Schoesler, who is the senator from this district, to arrive, and he should be here shortly. So I will go ahead and introduce Mark Schoesler, so when he's here we can just have him flow right into the conversation. Senator Mark Schoesler represents the 9th Legislative District, which covers parts or all of Adams, Asotin, Franklin, Garfield, Spokane, and Whitman counties. Within these boundaries, he proudly represents Washington State University in Pullman. Senator Schoesler was elected to the House of Representatives in 1993 and served for 12 years. He was elected to the Washington State Senate in 2004 and served as the Senate Majority Leader in the Majority Coalition Caucus. The senator serves on 2 Senate committees, Rules and Ways and Means. He also serves in an appointed position on the Select Committee on Pension Policy. Senator Schoesler is a 5th-generation dryland wheat farmer in Ritzville on land his family has been farming since the 1880s.
So with us here today, we have former Congressman George Nethercutt. He was born in Spokane, Washington, and a graduate of North Central High School. Nethercutt earned a BA in English from Washington State University in 1967 and a law degree from Gonzaga University in 1971. Nethercutt was first elected to Congress in 1994 and represented Washington's 5th Congressional District, spanning the counties of Stevens, Berry, Pend Oreille, Lincoln, Spokane, Whitman, Walla Walla, Columbia, Garfield, and Asotin. In Congress, he sat on the House Appropriations Committee and House Science Committee. Nethercutt left the House of Representatives at the end of his term in January 2005. He is the author of the book In Tune with America, Our History in Song, writes a monthly column for the Pacific Northwest Islander newspaper, and records radio commentaries for several radio stations. Nethercutt has founded the George Nethercutt Foundation in Spokane, Washington. The foundation is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering civic involvement. He is also a member of WPC's Board of Directors.
So at this time, we'd like to welcome Mr. Nethercutt. So how this is going to work is we're just going to have a conversation with Mr. Nethercutt, and then at the end of that conversation, we'll open it up to questions from our audience. So you want to go and start it off?
Yes. When did you know you were interested in politics, and describe the life events that led you to your respective career?
Well, I've always been interested in politics, even as a younger boy, as a student here at Washington State, but I wasn't actively involved. I didn't get actively involved in politics until I really was an adult. I went to law school, got my education, and I started practicing law, and I married my wife 38 years ago and raised a couple of kids, and then I got really involved in politics. I became elected as the county chairman in Spokane, Washington, and my job was to find candidates to run against Tom Foley and others. I don't see my picture around here anywhere, and I'm not surprised about that. So it was an evolution for me. When I was your age, I was interested, but I wasn't active. So it's really important, in my opinion, for you to be active and to be caring about your future, because you're the ones who are going to be deciding the policies of the nation in the years ahead, not me. I've done my thing. I'll be gone, but you'll be here. And the key is for you to care enough about the issues of the day that you're willing to lead others to your point of view. And the beauty of the Washington Policy Center, if I can say this, is it really is a point of view. It's nonpartisan, number one, and that's important for you to know. Number two, it's market oriented. It looks at the free market system, which is part of the American system, and encourages it. And that's a good thing. That's not to say all government is bad. I'm not here to tell you that. But free market solutions are good solutions to the system that we're part of in this country.
Yeah, that's great. So kind of spinning off of that, knowing what you know now, what are some things that you would have done differently and done the same to set yourself up for your career at our age?
You know, I wouldn't have done anything different. I'm not a person who lives with regret or says, gee, I wish I'd done something this way or that way. I was lucky enough to have a couple of parents, a mom and dad, who said to me, George, get your education. If you get good grades and you do well in school and have an education, the world will be open to you. And I believed that. I accepted that. So I came here to Washington State. I graduated in 4 years. I went to law school, did well in law school, passed the bar, became a lawyer. And so for me, the key was get my education and get my profession. It wasn't until '94 when I decided to run against the speaker, and I won miraculously. It was only the second time in the history of the country that a sitting speaker was defeated. So I ran a race that was a little different. I didn't hate him. I didn't criticize him. I said, I disagree with him. He's a good man. He served the district for 30 years. I respect him, but I don't agree with him. And I think the country should go in a different direction. And people of the 5th District said, we agree with you. And so I was fortunate that way that I was elected, but it came through my preparing myself for leadership. And I realized, I was a lawyer, I practiced law, I wasn't a candidate. I'll tell you a quick story. Every candidate who runs for public office usually does a poll. And I did a poll. 99% of the 5th Congressional District knew him. 3% knew me. And there was a 4% margin of error in the poll. So, go figure. I was an unknown running against a known. But in America, it's possible to do that. You can win. And I had the best people lined up, and he gave me 9 debates, most of them publicly, nationally televised. Usually, you want to ignore an opponent. You say, you're an idiot, I'm not going to give you a debate, you don't know anything. But he was a champion debater and a very smart man with 30 years of experience and smart. 15 elections people had voted for him, so I had to break that habit. I had to show them that I wasn't a complete idiot. And usually first-time candidates say something stupid, and the public says, you're an idiot, I'm not voting for you, I'll vote for the incumbent. I think he thought that he could do that if he debated me enough, that I'd make a fatal error. Well, I didn't. I made it through, and lo and behold, I won, and that was a huge deal. I felt sorry for him, but I was happy for me. But I figured if I won, it's a miracle. If I don't win, I'm not unhappy. I like practicing law. I didn't want to lose, but I liked living in Spokane, raising kids, and loved my wife, and I wanted to practice. So I won, and it changed my life. So it was a very important part of where I've been.
What do you see as a challenge to engage young people of our generation in politics and the importance of our generation becoming involved in politics?
Well, I think it's critically important for reasons that I said a minute ago. You're the next generation of leaders. You're going to be deciding how to deal with ISIS or Iran or Iraq, wherever. In times past, the sovereignty of a nation prevented another nation from invading or fighting. The borders of a nation were sacrosanct. No longer. They are no longer sacrosanct. You've got cross-border activity. You've got people who run planes into buildings and people die. You have people cutting heads off. I mean, that's a different dynamic, I think, than we've found over the last 50 years. So it's important for you to get involved because it's your future. You know, you're gonna decide what kind of a future it is. What is going to be our national policy relating to Iraq or Iran or ISIS? What is our policy? You have to figure that out. That's up to you. What is our policy on Social Security or Medicare or domestic programs? Those are issues that are going to affect your pocketbook, not going to affect mine. I'll die and I'll be fine and I'll be okay. But I'll go on to another one. But you're going to be here dealing with whatever is left over. So it's important for you to get involved and engage. How do you do that? You have to have hope. You have to have respect. You have to have humility, in my opinion. There's a university back where I spend most of my time in Virginia called George Mason University. And what the president has done is say, I'm going to make as a character identifier for our school, holding the door for other people. And so you go to George Mason University and people will hold the door for you. They're courteous to you. And so they're leading in that respect. It may seem trivial, but it's more than that. It's humility, it's courtesy, it's dealing with other human beings in a way that's respectful. And that's what I think you young people have to encourage others to do, to follow you as leaders, to have ideas, but be respectful. And that's our politics. The culture today is disrespectful, in my opinion. I fly a lot, all over the place, and I come home from trips, people don't hold the door for me at the airport. And so it's a culture thing. They'll talk loud on their cell phone. And that's something you all can change because you're the next generation of leaders, in my opinion. So I'm here to encourage you and to say, give others hope. Be smart enough in your educational endeavors to know what you're talking about and then lead others and say, I have an idea, follow me. And and people will. I'm serious. There's a football player by the name of Steve Largent who was a Seahawk Hall of Fame guy, famous guy. He came into Congress when I came into Congress in '94. That's right, I talk so long here. But Steve said to me one time, he was a little guy, he was only 5'10", 190 pounds, he wasn't a big guy. Now he's got 300-pound guys. And he said, George, the secret to my success was following the 5P rule. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. It worked for Steve. It works for most of us. If you prepare well, you won't perform poorly. Most likely, whether it's getting an A in your classes or whether it's preparing for a speech or whether it's leading other people. If you prepare well, you won't perform poorly. So proper preparation prevents poor performance. I've always remembered that. Another one was Ted Stevens was a mentor of mine. He was a senator from Alaska, very prominent guy, very smart, and had longevity. And he told me once, I was his chief of staff. I was a young guy back in D.C. I learned about government. I learned how the system works. And he said to me, George, you can't get hurt for what you don't say. And it was good advice. And I tried to follow it all those years. And when I debated him, I didn't say stupid things. I tried not to. And maybe I did, but no one knew. And it's good advice. You can't get hurt for what you don't say, whether it's in your marriage or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your class or your running for politics or whatever it is. It helps to be careful about what you say. And I didn't know everything about everything when I ran for Congress, but I knew enough to not say something stupid. And that helped me. So it's something to think about. Sorry, way long answer.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so you are definitely a leader here in our state and nationwide, and you've been around leaders for your entire career. So just from your perspective, do you think that people are born with just these innate leadership qualities or characteristics, or do you think that through education and life and career experiences, these characteristics can be developed? And also, what are some characteristics that you see in successful people? You kind of touched on that a little bit, but if you want to expand on that.
Well, I think you can. I think there are born leaders, but I think you can become a leader by studying hard and preparing yourself well. I really believe that. So I don't think we're stuck with either you're born a leader or you're not a born leader. I think even a C or a D student can be a good leader. If you prepare well and you know what you're talking about and you inspire other people. I think you have to inspire people. Qualities that I respect are honesty and integrity. Congress is an egomaniacal society, honestly. Everybody was a student body president. Everybody can get hung up on congressman or senator do let me help you with this or let me help you with that. You start thinking, hey, I'm a pretty important person. And you're really not. When you get home, you have to stay grounded, in my opinion. So the great leaders are the ones who are not arrogant and are not sort of so self-confident that they dismiss other people. You have to be sensitive about other people's feelings. politics today is polarized because the left doesn't want to deal with the right and vice versa. And so therefore, you know, if you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican or vice versa, you and I have to work out our problems. We have to figure out, I have to figure out what do you need to go home and satisfy your constituents. You're representing 750,000 people in your congressional district, and so am I. So if I'm going to get 100% and you're going to get nothing, you're going to say, well, forget it, buddy. I'm not going to compromise with you. I'm not getting anything out of it. And I'm going to say, I'm not giving you anything. Forget it. So the country stops. Nothing happens. So you have to put yourself in the other person's place, and that's why I think the ability to do that is critically important for any leader. You have to empathize with others. You have to say, I understand how you feel. I may not agree with you, but I understand how you feel. And so here's how we can solve this problem. You know, Ronald Reagan was an icon of the right wing. But he had government experience, number one. He was an establishment guy, number two. And he said, if I get 51%, you get 49, I'm happy. I win. If I get 60, you get 40, that's good. And so that was his attitude, as opposed to I get 100, I won, I get 100, you get nothing. And so the people who are good leaders can learn how to become good leaders. I learned as a young guy in the atmosphere of Congress, I learned how the system worked. I learned how the Constitution applies to what we do. I learned what it's like to live in a free society. Mark. Nope, it isn't Mark. I thought you were Mark Chester. Sorry, but in any event, that's why I'm so focused on civic learning, on learning about how our government works, about economics, about foreign policy, about government, about our system. You have to know how it works. It's a complicated system, or else you're going to say, forget it, I don't want to learn about that. It's foreign to me and I don't care, so I'm not voting. And therefore, you have a minority of a minority choosing our leaders. And then we're mad as heck at our leaders because they don't solve our problems. So my view is, politics is a participatory engagement. You have to learn things, you have to understand our system, and then you have to get involved as a volunteer, as an intern. And these young women are going to be interns or have been interns at a congressional office. That's a big deal. You get in the atmosphere and you see how the system works. And I've got a web app, and I'll pitch my own little thing here. If you go to nethercuttfoundation.org, you'll see our website. It's nonprofit, it's nonpartisan. And you can take a test. And I'll get your advice, really. Maybe you give me your advice, or maybe you won't. I want members of Congress to take this test. It's 20 questions. It's 25 questions. It'll take 20 seconds per question, multiple choice. It's basic. It's not tricky. It's just about how our system works. Now, what I'm planning to do, and you tell me if I'm wrong, I'm probably going to say to Congressman Smith, take the test. I don't care what your score is. I don't care how many times you have to take it. I don't care, I won't tell anybody what your score is. I won't reveal it. But if you don't take the test, I'm going to tell the premise. And they'll be all over you and say, why won't you take this civics test? Because you don't know about government? What's the deal? And I'm going to give it to challengers too. So, I don't know. I'm thinking whether that's the right thing to do or not. I'm not sure. Some of my old friends will be mad at me, but that's okay. So, that's my answer.
So we spoke a little bit about this earlier when we had dinner. But when your career is over, completely over and done, would you prefer to be known for your career achievements or your personal achievements?
Personal achievements by a long shot. I was talking to some students at Beat High School in Spokane today. And they said, what are you most proud of? And I said, I'm most proud of the fact, not the legislative accomplishments that I achieved, but the fact that my marriage is solid and my kids came through unscathed. They're good young people. Because I've seen too many members of Congress have their marriages break up, they have affairs with other women or men, and their kids commit suicide or they do something, get in trouble with the law or something. And so that's what I look at as the greatest achievement, is that I survived this experience fairly unscathed, I think. I mean, maybe you'll say he's an idiot, but I don't feel that I feel like I was a normal guy just trying to do a job to the best of my ability, and it was a great job. I encourage you to seek public service someday. It's a great experience trying to help other people solve their problems. So, that's, I can tick off some legislative accomplishments, but that's not, no one cares and no one knows, but they know if you got divorced or you committed a crime or you cheated or you were dishonest or you did something bad. That's more important in life, I think, for all of you to think about, whether you're a politician or an ex-politician or whether you're a business person or whether you're a teacher or whatever you end up being. You're known, I think you have to look in the mirror. Now, I went to, when the impeachment came along for Clinton, that was a tough time for me because people passionately wanted him not to be impeached. People passionately said, impeach the guy. It was a very emotional moment for a lot of citizens looking to me to make a decision for them. So I made my decision, but I went to my pastor. I'm a Presbyterian. I went to my Presbyterian pastor, National Presbyterian Church. I said, it troubles me that this president, I think he cheated. I think he's dishonest, but he's going to get away with it. And he said, George, don't worry about it. He's a young man. He's got to look in the mirror every day for the rest of his life and, deal with that, knowing what he did or what he didn't do. So don't you worry about it. Let someone else. And it was good advice for me. But it told me, you're always going to have to look in that mirror. And you're always going to have to figure out, did I cheat? Was I a good person? Was I honest? Did I have integrity? Did I cheat on my wife? Did I cheat on my kids? Did I betray them some way? And that to me is more important than all the money you raised or the feats that you had or the wins that you accomplished or the power that you achieved. That's fleeting. Your name, I learned, comes off the door of Congress as fast as it goes on the door. So you can't start saying, hey, I'm an important guy, and I'm indispensable. The cemetery is full of indispensable people. I promise you. So, anyway.
So we have just a couple more questions here,
Sure.
And then we'll open it up to you guys.
I'll quit talking.
It's been perfect. So many young people are cynical about becoming involved in politics because they believe that politicians are dishonest. So how do you maintain your character and your morals throughout your career while also working with others?
For me, it was coming home. I mean, I left. I never run for office before in my life. I was a first-time guy. And so I came home every other weekend for 10 years. I moved my family back east because I was selfish enough that I didn't want to be away from them during the week. That's how people get in trouble back then. Seriously, you get in trouble. Things get tempting. And so I wanted to avoid that, and I wanted to share this experience with my wife and kids. So we moved back there. So I'd spend one weekend with them, and I'd spend all week with them. I'd sleep in my own bed at night. And then the other weekend I'd come out here and I'd work all weekend. So for me it was a good equation. And you can keep your integrity by being close to the people you represent. Because I have a lot of friends who say, George, you're being phony, or George, you're not doing this, or you should do that. And they kept me grounded. My wife and kids kept me grounded. And I wasn't ever so self-important that I didn't feel that others who maybe were less fortunate than I was weren't valuable. They were. I used to go to juvenile court in Spokane and sit with the young kids who were in juvenile jail. And yeah, they had earrings and they had the hair and they had this or that, tattoos or whatever it may be. But they're just good kids. And they've been knocked around by somebody or hadn't been loved. And so they needed help. And so for me, I'd go by myself and see them. I'd walk down the streets of Rosalia by myself and stop in to an insurance office and say, I'm George Nethercutt, I'm your congressman. Do you have any advice for me? People would say, God, you gotta be kidding me. You're asking me for advice? Well, that kept me grounded. And so for me, it's good advice for all public officials is don't get in that bubble back there. start thinking you're really important, because it's easy to have happen. But if you come home enough and you have a family and friends who will be honest with you and say, come on, man, you're being stupid, or don't say that, or don't be that way. I can see what you're doing. It helps you avoid entrapment.
So, to kind of open up the opportunity for you guys to ask a question, what are some challenges the next generation of political leaders will have in the future of our society?
Well, I think you're going to have to figure out some very basic things. Number one, we've got a debt of $20 trillion. I mean, how are we going to pay that down? What sacrifices are we going to have? No one wants to make, the current crop of members don't want to make. Second of all, I think you have to be inspired by others. You know, pick a candidate and get involved with them. Learn about public service in my opinion. It's very helpful. You learn about other people's problems that you never perceived might be out there. But if you get involved in a campaign, you see how it all works. You see how this system works, how representative government works. Get involved with the Washington Policy Center. I'm speaking to the choir here, but learn about issues and learn about perspectives. I was an appropriator, so the whole government came before me every year. All appropriations bills had to be signed by the president. They couldn't just pass them to them. They wouldn't just die. This year they had to be passed. The president had to sign them to fund the government. So I got to see a lot of how the system worked. And basically, that knowledge helped me have perspective about social programs or other spending that we do. Do we need that? Yes, maybe we do need that. Some people need help. Other people are struggling and they don't have the brain power that you have or I have or others have. They struggle, or they're damaged medically, or they're incapacitated somewhere. They need help in our country. And if you don't know about them and how they live and what is important to them, you can't respond to their needs in an effective way. The second thing I've mentioned, or third, or whatever it is don't be afraid to tell people how you feel. I served for 10 years, and never in that 10-year period did anybody come up to me and put their finger in my chest and say, let's go outside. I disagree with you. They'd say, they may say, I don't agree with you, George, but I appreciate what you said and how you told me your rationale. I can appreciate that. I don't agree, but I appreciate it. And so, to me, that was an important element of public service. It's easy to be dogmatic. It's easy to be right-wing or left-wing and say, you're an idiot, I'm right, you're wrong. That never works. You have to put yourself in somebody else's position. And you do that by, engage with the policies here. I've been holding down the fort here, man. Filibustering is what they call it.
Really?
So we'd like to welcome
Congressman, thanks, sir.
You want to
This
go
is a
ahead and
great
take a
group.
seat? We'll go ahead and
You answer some
fire a
questions.
couple questions at you that we'll open up the floor. So we already did a little introduction for you, so they all know who you are. So if you're willing, we'll go ahead and fire a couple questions at you. Does that work?
Absolutely.
All right. So do you want to talk about your position a little bit, and how did you know that you were interested in politics, and what are the life events that led you to your current position?
Okay, well, I went to Evergreen Boys State. I was a state FFA officer, and I expected to go home and quietly farm for a long, long time. But you realize that government impacts what you do when you're trying to make a living. Got involved with the Washington Ag Forestry Education Foundation. Then got more involved with the wheat growers, and one thing led to another, and the thought that maybe when I was 55, I would think about being semi-retired in public service. Instead, I did it at 35. So that took a little different turn in life than what I anticipated.
I've been there. This will be my 24th session, 12 in the House, going into 12 in the Senate. And if you would have told me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that I would be the Senate Majority Leader, I would have laughed. And I think everybody in Olympia would have laughed. But, you know, the young people in our caucus and in Olympia are so much more talented than I am. But I have one thing, and that's experience. And